So Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Will. So nice to be here, man.
So you and I connected a couple of months back now, and there's certain people that when I connect with them and I hear what they're about, their mission and the things that they're doing, I'm just like, yes, this is one of my people. And you're one of those people in terms of your story, what you've done, your ambition, and importantly, sort of the great work that you're doing with one of your brands as it stands at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Obviously, a lot of people, no doubt, have heard you before because of the various things that you've done in terms of your business interest and your phenomenal podcast. But one of the things that I always find fascinating, and I've got sort of quite obsessed with over the years, is why people do what they do. I'm like the annoying why guy that wants to know what is it that really drives people to do the things they do, to have the ambition that they do. And I know that we've spoken on multiple occasions now, and you've got quite the story, so quite the entrepreneurial story. But what's interesting is kind of how that then led to your own, sort of, I want to say mental health challenges, in terms of imposter syndrome and various things, that's then sort of taking on this next journey, which is a really exciting one, making a difference to people all over the world. So for people that maybe don't know the wonderful story, if you'd be kind enough to sort of share the background quickly before we get stuck in.
For sure, yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 10 years and had multiple businesses. So some failed, some succeeded, some still going, where I'm the founder, but very much not involved in the day-to-day. So that's quite nice. And I definitely learned more from my failures than my successes so far. And one of the things that I've spoken to you a lot about, was struggling with imposter syndrome in my last business, and how I used that insight to start building my current full-time occupation, which is heights. And how I really think about, strategically and tactically putting, daily practices in place and weekly practices in place to work towards a better mental health journey. And the sort of three things that really led to me starting Heights. The first, and this is worth saying, like, I've had burnout in my last company, and, that is a very obvious thing to have if you are a high achiever and you push yourself for always wanting more and to be more and to do more. And it's very easy to forget that actually, athletes achieve the top of their game by resting more than they compete. That's, they might train for like 2 hours of the day and rest for 8. So, we don't think about that in the mental Olympics, so to speak, right? You're just constantly going. And so, I've had the experience and aftermath of burnout to know that that wasn't a good way to work towards building a new company. But actually, it was another 3 sort of mental health challenges, as you mentioned, that really led to how I think about heights. Now, the first is I had really bad insomnia and chronic anxiety. So I spent 6 months, 6 months with insomnia. As a result, chronic anxiety, because you just get anxious the entire time, you're not going to get sleep. And I started to get panic attacks in meetings during the day, and, all of this stuff sort of compounds. In the end, I obviously tried so many different things over the 6-month period. I went to the doctor, who gave me sleeping pills. I went to therapy, sleep therapy. I tried Calm, I tried Sleepio, I tried cognitive behavioral therapy, all of these different things. And the reality is, in the end, it was dinner with a friend who told me to go and see a dietitian that made the difference. And that was something that no one had suggested, including my doctor. The reality is, I walked into the dietitian and told her about my symptoms, and she diagnosed me within a minute and told me that I probably had a nutritional deficiency, a biological or physiological problem with my mental health. And it sounded like, to her, I'd already tried and exhausted all of the different psychological things I could do. So therefore, to her, it was like so obvious, like, you haven't tried improving your nutrition. You haven't tried thinking about feeding your brain. You've only thought about, like speaking to people, like talking therapy, like, all of these different things that we assume are the ways to cure a mental health problem. So she recommended, or rather prescribed, DHA omega-3 B vitamin complex and blueberry extracts, which are specific things to help me sleep. And within 1 week, I was sleeping like a baby. I had my first night of sleep till 7 a.m. And then, I thought that was a fluke. But like 2 more of those later, I called her up in massive excitement to tell her that she's changed my life and thank you so much and all this stuff. And she was generally just pretty nonchalant about the whole thing and was like, yes, I know. I told you it would work. Very much I told you so kind of attitude. And that was kind of the striking moment for me because I thought she would really appreciate the compliments, but actually she was mostly just exasperated and was like, look, I tell everyone, right? So she was like, I tell everyone, I know that this would work. Like, and I'm like, it was weird because I'm a supplement skeptic, right? So I read that they don't work. And she's like, yes, imagine my fucking job. Like, literally, patients come in here with problems. I prescribe them supplements. They work. They avoid medication. And it's exhausting for me. I'm a medically trained nutrition professional. Like, they're not. This is where the wind up is. And it's so interesting because if you go to a dietitian, which, by the way, is nutritionists deal with healthy people and dietitians deal with sick people. That's the major difference between the two. Much harder to become a dietitian. You have to literally go to medical school with doctors, for 4 years. So it's like a very, very well-trained profession. But she's very much like, well, this is literally my job. Like, I'm a medically trained professional. I'm telling you that supplements work. And like the stupid thing in society is doctors only think that prescription medication works. So if they work, why not supplements? Makes no sense. So she was able to just like pin this into me and be like, holy shit, that's a very good point.
You shared something when we spoke before, which I think is when you think about it on the face of it, it's actually very obvious, but it's one of the reasons why so many people are so skeptical about supplements is the concentration of products. And I was on a call that one of your colleagues did not long ago around due to basically marketing, you can have a certain supplements that a dietitian would maybe suggest that will work, but then these unregulated brands have got hold of them, or even regulated because they've sat within the rules, and they only use like 10% of the actual extracts that are required, of the nutritional active ingredients. They can market it as doing X, Y, and Z, but the reality is you need 10 times the dose. And that's where people think supplements are really expensive. So they look and go, oh, bloody hell, that's expensive. And they look at a cheaper alternative that might be half the price, but it's not a like for like because one's got 100% of qualities, the other only got 10%, right?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. So like, here's like, prescription medication, for example, right? If you're prescribed a medication, they have to give you on the daily dose by law. They have to give you the daily dose, the scientific amount that you're being given for that prescription medication. For whatever reason, some idiot in the world like that decided to define like supplement regulation, decided that it was okay to make a massive difference between the marketing amount that you have to put in to make a claim on health versus the scientific dosage, which has the proof and evidence around efficacy. So in the case of omega-3s, just to use one example, most people are common with omega-3s. Parents recommend it to their kids. You get 7Cs, that's the brand everyone buys, blah, 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 blah. 7Cs make the best-selling brand of omega-3 in the world. You are meant to have 250 milligrams of omega-3s per day, according to science, to promote a healthy brain function. So that's why you and me would take omega-3s, whether it's fish oil or plant-based and it's algae oil. That's why you and I would have it. When you buy 7Cs, biggest brand in the world selling it, the dose you get is 45 milligrams per day. And that's the number one bestseller. It's 15 quid a month. You then compare that to another omega-3 brand, which will sell for 30, 40, 50 quid a month, and go, they're a rip-off. 7C is obviously just a bigger brand, better distribution. Therefore, I'm going to get 7Cs. And the reason is because you think you're comparing apples with apples, but you're not. You're literally comparing a brand that is ripping off their customers. They put in 45 milligrams per day because that is the minimum that you are allowed to put in and make a marketing claim, which says on the front of the packet, promotes a healthy brain function. Now, they're also legally required, and this is the loophole, to put an asterisk and the information on the back in tiny, tiny, tiny small print. So you have to, like, the thing is, if you look at the supplement package, if you know as a consumer, which by the way, none of us do, but if you know what to look out for, then you can just see all the information yourself. You turn the pack around, look at how much they put in there, and you have an investigation into what the scientific dosage is. But in that case, you need omega-3s from 7Cs for 6 days in a row to get 1 day's worth of what science says you need as a minimum. And therefore, you're literally being ripped off. You're basically getting, if you think about it that way, just over 4 or 5 days worth of your omega-3 needs in a whole month's package from 7Seas. So that's a rip-off. Literally, there's no other way of saying it. There's an absolute rip-off, and all the major brands do it. That is not like their fault, so to speak. They're playing the game. That's a marketing regulation point that where supplements are completely different to prescription medication, right? You have a problem, you're prescribed a medication, it's the amount you're meant to take per day, and you have an outcome, right? You feel better. Supplements, you can literally, like, the way that everyone buys them is on price. And sadly, that's just the wrong way to do it. You know, really quick thought exercise for you, but most people buy multivitamins from like Wellman or Wellwoman or whatever, right? Say that you buy them for 10 or 15 pounds from Boots. I can't remember how much they are, but let's say they're 10 quid from Boots for a month's supply. Just the thought exercise here, 17% VAT, right? 50% minimum margin goes to Boots, right? So you're now talking about £3.50 or so worth of the product left that you've actually purchased from them. About 50%, I would imagine, because they're a capitalist corporate company, let's call it 50% margin that they want to take on each of their products. So now you're talking about getting about £1.50 worth of supplements over a 30-day supply. So it doesn't take a lot to figure out how little you're actually getting per day from a company like that. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's just that we've been led to believe this lie that supplements are actually really cheap. And the truth is you get what you pay for. So most cheap supplements, sadly, are just full of caking agents and bulking powders. You know, Vitabiotics literally have a list of like bulking agents that they use in their products, including titanium dioxide, which is literally listed as like a dangerous ingredient. But like, that's one of the things that they have in their product. And this is the thing, like, it's just normal. It's not like I'm attacking Vitabiotics. It's just literally normal. So when we were doing our product development and I was learning about all this stuff, I was like, this is wild. Like, I can't really think of another industry where it's basically up to the consumer to figure out what is or isn't high quality. And like, my dietitian was just straight up like, just go to Planet Organic or Whole Foods, don't buy from Boots or Holland & Barrett, which is mental, right? She's not saying that everything in Boots and Holland & Barrett is bad. She's just like, save yourself time. You're not exactly going to become a supplement expert overnight. But if you go to Planet Organic or Whole Foods, all the products are like between 30, 50, 60 quid or whatever. Your mind is going to be blown on the cost of supplements when you really get like quality, but you'll save yourself a lot of time. Just go there because that's where they're going to be good. And that's what I did. And I went to Planet Organic and I spent £120 on just omega-3 B vitamin complex and blueberry extract, which I thought was absolute rip-off. But here's the flip side, it worked, right? Mm. So I would have paid any amount of money. If you just said, Dan, I'll give you £1,000. If you give me £1,000, I'll end your insomnia tomorrow. I'd be like, fuck it, I'll give you £2,000 if you make that promise. So on that balance, 120 quid was nothing, right? And so I was converted immediately.
So you used a really great analogy once, and I think it was actually your dietitian that gave you the analogy of polystyrene bricks.
Yeah, I'll share that. So she basically said, you know, it's a very fair point, but your brain is made of fat, right? So 60% of your brain is made of fat, and 90% of that fat is one compound, which is DHA omega-3. So where does DHA omega-3 come from? Well, mostly in humans, we eat it in fish. That's where DHA comes from. And that's why we're always recommended, by the way, like Mediterranean and Japanese diets, literally number 1 and 2 joint healthiest, most longevity. They're where all the blue zones are, which is where people live the longest, lowest records of mental health problems, lowest records of Alzheimer's and dementia and cognitive decline. Why? Super, super duper fish heavy diets, right? So, you know, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the diets that are centered around basically healthy fats, so but particularly my other obsession is olive oil, by the way. Extra virgin olive oil is incredible for your brain, but healthy fats like olive oils and fish. Now, here's the thing. At the time, like I was complete vegan, right? So now I'm vegetarian, so like slightly more open-minded to other things as well. But, you know, I wasn't eating fish. And so where do you get your DHA from? And the answer to that question is algae. So what's fun is fish get their omega-3s from algae. Fish do not make omega-3s naturally. They don't synthesize it naturally. So all fish that provide DHA to humans in the chain actually get it from algae. And algae is the originating source in the world for DHA omega-3, which is the number 1 compound that our brains are made of. So what does all this mean? It means that if you think about your brain being 60% fat and 90% of that fat being DHA, If you're vegetarian or vegan and you're getting less omega-3s, because, for example, you're probably not sitting around having a plate of algae every day, so therefore you're not necessarily getting enough at all, the dietitian made a great point of, if you think about your brain like a house, and every single brick in that house, there's thousands of bricks in that house, but they're all important at helping prop it up. Let's say you remove a brick and you replace it with polystyrene, no problem. You could probably do that a few hundred times until your foundations and the house starts to wobble. And if you do it one too many times, it's going to start to crumble. So in the case of a brain, that's exactly what my brain was doing. My brain was giving me a biological warning sign to say your house is on fire, right? You have now neglected your brain to a point of hunger and starvation, essentially, of its key nutrient that it needs to thrive, being DHA omega-3. And you're now basically going to manifest into a mental health problem like insomnia. So now I'm not sleeping. And why am I not sleeping? Well, I don't know, because why would I know? So I need to go on a journey of self-discovery to find that out. And obviously mine lasted 6 months, long time to have insomnia, but ultimately it takes you on like a journey. I ended up in a dietitian. I ended up learning that it was nutritional. Once I put the pieces together, it's actually incredibly obvious, right? Like you work it backwards, it's super obvious, but it isn't necessarily so obvious to most of us who really have been led to think that all mental health performance and all mental health recovery, so from having a problem back to, say, a baseline, is all based on psychological things like talking therapy, having good friends, dealing with trauma, etc. Like these things are important 100%, but we already know these to be true. These are widely accepted in society. What we don't know is the role that nutrition, and definitely when we're lacking, like supplementation, can play a massive role in recovering our brains and helping us thrive. That's essentially my job, right? That's why I started Heights, because I'm like blown away by the science and the efficacy on this stuff, but even more blown away by the lack of consumer knowledge and understanding around it. It's like a travesty.
It's like coming back to Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? The most basic needs: food, water, shelter, sleep, and even above, sort of, if you were to make that final sort of foundation pillar of his hierarchy, where you've got sort of shelter and sleep, or what comes before that is food and water. Food is supplements, right? So it's making sure that we've got the appropriate nutrition to enable us to thrive, and like you say, have those concrete, well, they're not concrete bricks, whatever bricks are made out of, to
polystyrene.
rather than polystyrene.
Sorry, got you.
Rather than having the polystyrene. So one of the things I would love to touch on, because obviously we spoke a bit about Heights, and you shared some super valuable information, which for some people, they're hearing this. I know the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I've never thought of it like that. And that's part of your role now in one of the co-founders of the organization, is raising awareness for people, for them to just click and go, I get it, and change that paradigm that they've been conditioned to for so long. But one of the other things I'd love to touch on, because I know it made a big part of your journey, was that, like you said, you've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. You, at one point, had one of the fastest growing tech companies in the UK, I believe I'm right in saying. Can we just, because there's a lot of people that listen to this show that are entrepreneurs or business owners themselves, that they're going through the growing pains, and they have the imposter syndrome experiences, as we all do, as we're sort of on this journey. Who the hell am I to be doing this? But yours was particularly pivotal when it got to a particular point at an award ceremony, which I know you'll get to. But I'd love for you to just share sort of your experience of that, and then I've got a couple of questions on that side of things.
Yeah, so is the question more around what was it like to be growing a company at that speed?
Yeah, I suppose it was, you had a vision, and then you did the various things that you did, which meant that you picked up some rapid momentum, which I suppose there could be an interesting learning lesson. And well, what was it that you did, whether it was your thinking or actions, that meant that you got to being one of the fastest growing tech companies in the UK? And then obviously that didn't quite work out, and some of the lessons there. So maybe starting the former.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. The truth is, for our last company, Grabble, we got lucky with the trend, and I obviously there was good tech and it was good execution and all this stuff, but we got into mobile shopping when mobile shopping was taking off. Apps were taking off. This is 2013. Apps were taking off. God, it's crazy. That's almost 10 years ago. It freaks me out actually just saying that. but apps were just taking off, mobile was taking off, everyone was broadly saying shopping won't work on mobile, and we were saying that is absurd, like we're going to prove you wrong. And so we created essentially an app that looked like, it was the same time as Tinder, so it was like Tinder for fashion, Tinder for shopping eventually when it went beyond fashion. So you could swipe right, swipe left on clothes, have a discovery feed every day, save the products into baskets, get notified when they went on sale, check out inside the app in one touch. We got, we were just so good at product innovation as well. So like we got featured in Cupertino at Apple's product demos and stuff in their like one of their big annual things, right, from Tim Cook. And this was in 2016. And then that was because we were like one of the first people ever to do Apple Checkout, Apple Pay Checkout and stuff in like one touch. So we were really good at like just being really up with the trends. And like the first thing that we did strategically, and I think this is the only really valuable lesson that I could share with someone in picking how to win, we made the very bold choice of not having a website. So everyone else in e-commerce and shopping had a website and an app. And we were like, well, we want to be the best in the world at an app. So why would we have a website? Why would we give someone another option? If they want to shop on Gravel because they've heard that it's amazing, got to download the app. There's no other way of doing it. And that's a really powerful motivator. It meant that, you're really clear on who you're hiring. You've got the most modern tech stack in terms of the skills that people have. Like, bear in mind that web always goes through like lots of developments and stuff. So there's lots of old knowledge there. So by saying you're like mobile only and it's the new world and Android's new and iPhone's new and all this stuff, right? Being able to hire people that are at the forefront of that technology makes you a forward-thinking company. It means that your app isn't an also strategy. It means that your app is the center of the world of the strategy. So the people that are at the forefront of that, in terms of the technologists, they want to work at a company that thinks like that as well. Now, in the end, the company didn't work. The reality is because the business model was crap, the margins were awful, and it became a game of like raising so much money. And like we very unfortunately went out to raise our next round. We'd raised £5 million already. We went to raise another round, and basically Brexit happened, and no one wanted to invest in a company that was actually, a shit business model. And this is the thing, we're doing 30,000 new users a week. So like really rapid growth. We had over 1 million monthly active users like shopping through our app. But the business model was bad, right? It was actually literally costing us money to service those customers in a way that we couldn't redeem. So we had to do another funding round or we were going to run out of money to sustain our growth. That's literally what happened. So lots of lessons to learn. And there are amazing people that manage to do this, but I think like to make a company like that, a really ambitious company like that, I think you need 3 major ingredients. One is like a super clear vision about what you're trying to achieve so that you can so that you can achieve it. The second, and then you can galvanize people around that, right? The second then is like I think a very clear like what are we, what aren't we statement, right? So by saying like we're not web, you can't shop on us on web, it makes us totally different to everyone else, and it means you lose loads of customers, right? But it means that you get to like hone in super strongly on the thing that you do super well. So like super duper laser sharp focus is a really great way to like out execute your competitors, because ultimately you can hire better people and the teams with the best people are the ones that win. But then the third is you need, if there's a company like this, you need the right funding environment and you need the right amount of cash. So the problem with growth at all costs, which is what we were doing, is it costs money. And if you make one mistake, even for a month, and your burn is so heavy, then you can go under. And that's literally what happened to us. Like we were, honestly, like we were taking in revenue, spending on growth, spending on customer service, spending on tech, spending on all these things so often that like I honestly, me and my business partner had to spend, out of 12 months of a year, we were in an insolvency lawyer's office like 3 or 4 times, because like legally to cover ourselves, you need to be. Not because we were actually going to run out of money, but because we were in that gray area where like your month-on-month spend, like even if you take in 5 or 6 million in revenue that month, you might be spending 5 or 6 million in cost that month just to sustain what you're doing. So you're always at this like really odd dance of growth where even though it looks from the outside like you're growing really fast, everything's amazing, you're making loads of money, you're also spending so much too that you're doing a very close dance to insolvency. So I just remember this super weird existence of crazy growth, crazy numbers, super hot market on investment and everyone wanting us whilst being in an insolvency office. And then when, like, just to make sure that we were like, you know, legally compliant. And then when Brexit happened, which again is like really hard to predict something like that, the attitude towards companies like this just completely changed, quite logically, I think, right? That people weren't willing to take risks on businesses that looked like risks. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the market mood for investment changed immediately.
And there was a moment, wasn't there, at an awards ceremony where for you, it was like, and it's, I think it's interesting. You speak about having really clear goals. And I know this particular award ceremony, this particular award was one of your goals, right? And
yes, it was.
And I think this is a really interesting story, which I know you'll share in just a second, around having goals, but then there's it's not just about achieving the goal, it's doing it with integrity as well, which I know you won't mind sharing for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the first things we did when we started Grabble was say, like, you know, we want who doesn't, right? Adulation and admiration from the tech world, because we weren't technologists, right? So we're like, what does great look like? Great is a proper write-up in TechCrunch. Great is winning awards from TechCrunch because they're like the number one in tech. So we're like, okay, that's something that we want to achieve. Now, fast forward a few years later, there was this one week where we were doing so much and innovating so fast that, you know, we were being invited to speak keynote conferences. So I was doing one talk at Wired. So I was doing a talk in between Facebook and Google. In the mornings was literally, the first talk was Facebook, the second talk was me, and the third talk was Google, and all about the future of mobile. So that was at like Wired's big annual conference in London. And that was like really cool or whatever, but like, you know, pressure. There was another talk, I can't remember which one it was, like that week as well. And then the third one, or third event, so to speak, was this award ceremony. And the award ceremony was for TechCrunch's Europas. So that's literally like, the Europas is essentially like the Oscars of, you know, tech products in tech companies in Europe. So all the best ones. And we were up for Best Mobile Startup of 2017. And the reality is, like, that week was the same week that I learned that we were 100% not going to make it. So, like, it was just a fact that we weren't going to make it by this point.
And when you say not going to make it, for clarity for everyone listening, you mean you're going to run out of cash?
Yeah, we're definitely going to run out of cash. We've exhausted every avenue. We're 100% going to have to wind down the company, and there's no other way around it. And obviously, like, you know, as entrepreneurs, like, that's a hard decision to come to because you have really exhausted many different avenues to try and avoid it. And so I still that week had to get up and present our vision, right? So I had to present our vision between Facebook and Google. So it's Wired conference, not up there to do a sob story. You're there to put on a brave face. So did that, did the next talk the next day. And then by the time it was Thursday, which was the Europas, like, neither me or my business partner were in a place to go, like, just emotionally, mentally, like, very drained, having to get up on stage and lie to people basically about like the success of the company and the future. Knew that it was all shit. And I was like very focused on just getting through that period and making sure that I wouldn't be a total mess ultimately. The reality is, by the time I got to Thursday, I just spoke to my business partner. I was like, I really can't go today. I'm really sorry. Like, it's just not in a place to do it. And he was like, I actually feel exactly the same way. I'm like, well, fuck it. Like, let's not go. And super ironically, obviously, we won. So we won the category Best Mobile Startup. We beat, I can't remember who it was at the time. I think definitely Depop, definitely Zalando, but I can't remember. There was a couple of others. And our friend Gabby had to like go and collect the award, and I had like a photo on stage of him collecting our award for us, messaging us like, "Where are you, tits? You've just won this award," kind of thing. And it was just like the most like perfect way to demonstrate the irony of that journey, right? Which is like, that was the award that we always wanted to win from the publication that we always admired the most, but actually we were given it on the day when we basically just thrown in the towel. So that was like a very I wouldn't say hard moment, but like poetic, really, right? It's fascinating that that's what happened in so many ways. So still got that award physically, still look at it often, reminds me a lot of how meaningless awards are. And it's really worth saying to anyone, like, but it's so worth thinking about, like, the awards cycle and the speech cycle, right? Like, your books to go talk at events of a startup like this 3-4 months in advance. Like, a lot of startups don't know if they're going to be around in 3 or 4 months, even the good ones. So it gave a lot of great life experience about what's important, and I've learned from my experience. Like, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I don't apply for awards. I don't go to them. I don't go to those kind of ceremonies. Like, I like to talk on podcasts, but I always like, is this coming out within the month? I like to keep things like relevant and on point now. Yeah. And it's really important lessons to learn what's important, right? And what's important is literally managing your margin, satisfying your customers, and having a vision that you can deliver. It's reframed my thinking.
Love it. On that note, and one of the things you mentioned, you said, I think got lucky. I personally have an opinion that I don't believe in luck. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned is that you just innovated a lot, about being mobile only and doing those different things and constantly innovating. And one of the things that you and I definitely have a very similar value on is learning. We both love learning, finding out all the different nuances around lots of different things that can ultimately enable us to improve and grow and continue to optimize mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in business, in our personal lives. And you've got a very consistent email that goes out on a weekly basis, which you have been sending for quite a number of years now, right?
Yeah, over 2 years, every single Sunday now.
And that email isn't just hey, this is what I've been up to this week. I sort of went to this restaurant, went to that restaurant. It's very specific about certain research that you do, because you have a value on learning and developing, and there's a lot of research that you do that then you sort of I'm writing saying sort of paraphrase, break down for people from various research that you do. How important is that to your own growth, and then obviously the importance of the business?
Yeah, so when I started the business, I reflected on my time at Gravel. One of the things was I did get imposter syndrome a lot. I met the Queen, and I met really interesting people. Like, was invited to Buckingham Palace like regularly, like 3-4 times a year, because that was the kind of hype cycle that we were in, right? So you go to these places, you feel so excited for your little invitation, and you put it up on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and it is very fancy and it does look cool, and you're told not to take photos, and obviously I took shitloads anyway. You're given a little slap on the wrist, and you say, "Oh, I'm really sorry." You wait till their back's turned to take more. But you come home feeling like a good mix of like both excited and like, what on earth am I doing there? And I felt like that a lot of the time, very often, and it didn't really go away. So I thought about this a lot when starting Heights, which was, how am I going to get into a cycle of building a brand all around nutrition and neuroscience for the brain, when I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a neuroscientist, and I don't really know very much on the topic at all. I'm here to learn, and I'm good at brand building, but that's about it. And so I decided that the way that I'd get around it would be to research science papers every single week on how to take care of your brain, and then rewrite them in plain English in a 3-minute read, which goes out every Sunday. And that would commit me to every single week doing a day of research where I research next week's newsletter. I'm learning what science says is good for your brain, not some influencer, not some frothy crap that's someone's opinion, but like literally, there's a science paper on this. By the way, it doesn't make it completely true. Science is always, science is the belief in the ignorance of experts. Is one of my favorite quotes. So it's like, there's always someone else that will disprove someone else's science or take science forward further. But at least it's gone through a rigorous process with the great intention of helping humanity develop further. So great respect for scientists, great respect for the work that they do. Wanted to communicate some of their findings and stuff into a newsletter that was a bit more engaging. And that was basically the process. So I started writing that newsletter every single week. I put myself into a weekly cadence of doing it. And that enables you to really sit and forces you to learn. Right? It forces me to say that every single week for the last 135 weeks, I think it is, I have spent a day learning what science says you can do to take care of your brain. Doesn't make me a neuroscientist, doesn't make me a nutritionist, doesn't make me a doctor, doesn't make me anything really. But it does mean that I've got a bank of information books that I've read, papers that I've read that are all about science. And it gives me a great bank of information to improve my own knowledge base. So what's the point of all of that? Well, I speak to scientists, and I've got a podcast now as well called Braincare. And, I speak to the literally world-leading experts and researchers and academics. And I can hold my own in conversations with them because I'm flexing a muscle, right? I'm learning how to do it. I'm learning their language. I'm learning how to speak to them in a way that communicates value to them as well, right? Because the thing with academics and scientists is, they're brilliant people, but they're not amazing at communicating the impact that their work has on human beings. So there's always a communication gap between experts and scientists. And I think that's one of the things that I try and do really well as a person, and a tool that I've been learning to develop. It's like, where am I in the value chain? Well, if there's an end consumer and there's scientific research, I think I'm a pretty good conduit between the two at saying, well, this is the kind of message you're trying to say. Let me say it for you in a way with some GIFs and some cat emojis that people might actually have a little laugh and engage with the content in. So that's been the job of the newsletter. It's developed into, a podcast as well. Again, I believe in, despite what you think from listening to me right now, try and work really hard on being succinct. So, the newsletter is always under a 3-minute read, often a 2-minute read. The podcast, every episode is just 15 minutes, like from 5 to 15 minutes. So we do an episode every week that's just 5 minutes. It's like, people don't have time, really, right? Like, it's interesting. They tend to have time in things like this, conversations like this, right? What I've learned is people are really interested in people's stories and, learning about people. There's like this intense curiosity around that, which favors a longer interview process. But when it's about self-care in general, then people don't want to spend the time. So you need to make sure.
What's the need to know? What's the
exactly. And so, like, actually, little and often is a much better way of nudging people towards better behaviors. So all of the work that we do at Heights is based around the principle of helping people with habit formation. Like, even down to our actual pills in the smart supplement and the bottle, both of those are designed with habit formation principles in mind. So again, like being an outsider in the supplement industry, knowing nothing about it, we learned that most people start taking supplements and then don't continue. But that's fucking mad. Like, what was the point in doing it? Like, I thought the intention was to start feeling better. Why wouldn't you carry on wanting to feel better? It turns out most people need to take supplements with food. Therefore, the times aren't regular, which makes it an irregular habit. And if you can't make something a regular habit, it stops becoming one. So again, the idea with the Heights capsule was, we've got omega-3s on the outside and then vitamins on the inside. It's 2 capsules a day. You can take them both at the same time. You can replace your multivitamin, vitamin D, vitamin C, your omega-3s, replace all of them and just take 2 Heights capsules every single day. Most people do it first thing in the morning. But the point is, you don't have to take it with food. It enables people to choose the moment they want to take it and have it as convenience. And then the second form factor is in the bottle. So again, most people don't... most people have a supplement cupboard and all supplements look exactly the same. They come in the same bottles, they all look the same. And so therefore people stick it in a cupboard. Well, out of sight, out of mind. Every time you open that cupboard, you look at like 500 different supplements that you promised yourself you'd take. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to close that cupboard now. It's too much. So the other thing we thought about was, how can we make our products so beautiful and well designed that people will keep it out in front of them in their workplace or their workstation, I should say, or, where the number one most popular place for people to keep their Heights is by the side of their bed. They just have it with a glass of water, and that's the first thing that they do when they start their day. So these things are like really consciously thought about in terms of like, how do you help people make brain care a daily habit, a small habit that you do every single day that will improve your life. That's like the goal. And so that comes from the product to the communication style to the different formats that people engage with. Like, these things are all part of the same journey, right? Which is understanding that today's modern consumer says that they want to take care of themselves, says they want to take care of their brain. All of this stuff is true, but life still prioritizes other things for them. And so they get very busy and they forget to do these things. And so our job is not to like retrain someone not to be busy, is to say, well, where can we fit into your life? How can we make the stuff super simple so it's kind of like inexcusable?
Yeah, love it. One couple of things I want to touch upon. We've spoken about the importance of brain care, why it's important, obviously your own personal story. We've spoken about the various different elements of having supplements and why they're important. for people listening to this right now and going, right, I get it. Clearly, you know what you're talking about. Like you say, you're well versed in this over the last couple of years. If people are thinking right now, right, so what exactly is Heights and why is Heights different? I know you've spoken about the packaging.
Right.
If we can share that with them quickly, and then I know we can sort of pop a link in for people in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, first and foremost, Heights as a company, as a Braincare company, so what that means is we are creating products, services, content, and community all around how to take care of your brain. What does Braincare really mean? Well, you know, it's not all just soft stuff. It's not all just like looking after your nutrition. It's not all just mental well-being. For us, it's also like, you know, helping people find productivity, find flow, more energy, better sleep. Like these are the actual outcomes we want from life. And these are the things that if we're nailing them and activating them on a daily basis, we'll live longer and live healthier too. So the point of like buying into Heights as a company, one way or another, whether it's through our product or just through our content, is that by engaging with us, you will be learning how to live longer for longer and healthier lives, like generally. Now, from a product point of view, our launch product is a single supplement. So it is, firstly, most importantly, the #1 rated supplement on Trustpilot, which I'm very pleased to say. So you could listen to a biased founder like me talk about how great the product is, or you could know that most people that leave reviews on supplements say, great company, nice customer service, cool people, whatever. All of our reviews are about the product. I sleep better, I'm more energetic, I feel great, I've never felt this way from a supplement before. Like those are typically speaking the types of reviews that we get. And you can check them out at yourheights.com/reviews, or you can check them out directly on Trustpilot. I think that's the stuff that motivates me the most, is like, we have had such a unique way of building our smart supplement. So instead of saying we're a company that's going to just create loads of different supplements because we know that consumers buy them, we have a very different philosophy, which is one of our values is care without compromise. And so each product, we say, what does that mean in this product? It means that we will always update that product. So if you usually buy a supplement, it sits in a supplement, will sit in, like, say from Boots, that's sitting in their storage cupboard for a couple of years and they're replenishing out the back, right? What we do is completely different. We order fresh stock every 3 months. So we basically make it to order. And the reason we do that is because ingredient science is always updating, as is the world. And I'll give an example in a second. The ingredient science is always updating. And so we like to keep our ingredients fresh. What this literally means is a blueberry extract manufacturer that we work with. So basically we source all of our ingredients from all over the world. Our omega-3s from Nova Scotia, our blueberry extracts from Italy. Just give you 2 examples there. Our blueberry manufacturer got in touch with us to say they've got an even more potent version of the product. What does that mean? It means the bioavailability is higher. What does that mean? It means the antioxidants, which is why we put blueberry extract in the product. It's the equivalent, by the way, of having 25 blueberries a day by having Heights every day. The reason for that, that's like where all the science and efficacious information is in terms of blueberries for your brain. That's for memory and for sleep, incidentally. When a blueberry manufacturer would come to you and say that, if you're a normal supplement company, you're like, cool, well, we'll let you know in 2 years when we run out of supply. For us, we're like, great, we're putting that into our next stock. What does that do? It reduces the space in our product, which means that we have more space to include something new. And so what we've chosen to do with that is increase our vitamin D intake into the next batch of the product. Why? Because of all the research that's come out during COVID about vitamin D, COVID, and immunity. So we'd previously put in the amount of vitamin D that's recommended for brain health, but we're actually upping the dosage. So because we learned from our customers as well, they were taking vitamin D supplements on top of it because of COVID, because of immunity. So by working with ingredient manufacturers that constantly provide better quality, you get like more and more space created in your product, which means that we can put new ingredients in or up the dosage as well. So we're literally committed to making the #1 best products in the entire world that can't be beaten, because we go through that process every 3 months. We literally constantly say, what's the science? How can we update our products? We don't do a good enough job.
Yeah, that innovation sort of thing.
Exactly. So we don't bring out like a whole line of products. We just say, we want you to know that if you're taking Heights, you literally can guarantee that there is no other product in the world right now that can outbeat us. Every 3 months will improve. So if we can, obviously. So that's what's like, again, like I think it comes from having a tech background, right? Like an always in beta kind of mindset about your products, even with a physical product. So that's one of the things I would say, most important thing that I'd like customers to know. No added no additives, no caking agents, no synthetic fillers. The product is literally 100% jam-packed full of actual nutrients. The RRP of our product, if you were to buy it in Whole Foods or Planet Organic, it's £145. I know this because the founder of Planet Organic is one of our customers. She's got her and her husband and her 3 kids as our customers.
On that note, really quickly, because you've got quite a lot of and I know I'm mindful you've only got 5 minutes you've got to shoot. So, and there's a few other things that I want to just make sure that people know how to find you and stuff. But this, like, you're very passionate about it, and understandably so. But you've got some pretty serious endorsers of your products, Stephen Fry, and I don't know if you want to a few other name drops for people that
so we've got a good variety of people as well. We've got people like, so Stephen Fry is one of our first and longest standing customers. So and I would say very, very generous both with his time and with his reviews. So there's him, I guess, in the sports arena, someone like Chris Smalling, obviously, like, very interesting there because he's super interested in there's a lot of research at the moment in Alzheimer's and dementia around sports people because of all the heading that they do. Really interesting. Now, nutrition is actually demonstrated one of the things that can actually help repair the cells that have been damaged. So Chris Smalling is like a really good example of a professional athlete. So many founders of major companies, from Calm to Planet Organic to Shazam to WeTransfer, like lots of amazing founders of multiple unicorn companies that take heights every day to start their day, right? And this is the thing: if your brain is your most important asset, then why wouldn't you feed it what it needs to thrive? It's like a logical thing to do. It's a logical commitment to make. The product, from a costing point of view, depending on what subscription you get, obviously, but if you get an annual subscription, it comes from £1 a day. I mean, in that framework, like, how is your brain not worth insuring for £1 a day? And this is like the challenge that we have as a brand, is like most people aren't aware and don't even think about it. So we're on a super exciting journey if you think about the fact that, no one's aware, but everyone can understand the problem once it's been articulated. So our job is to find the way to articulate it really well.
We have a discount code that you've kind of given to our members of the Evolve Network before, which, with your permission, I'll share on this podcast for everybody. So anyone that's listening to this podcast, you can use, and that is 10. So TEN. Is it case sensitive or not? No. So TEN and then the number 10. So 1010, but the TEN and then the 10. And you can use that, which I think is a 10% discount, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
So we'll put that in the show notes for those of you that I highly recommend. Go out, test it, experience it for yourself. This sort of thing, experience it. There's no, and I'm right saying you can do a monthly option if you want to. No fixed contract, I believe I'm right in saying. So
yeah, so it's a monthly subscription.
And experience it, and so you can see it for yourself, which is great. But Dan, I mean, in terms of, people have no doubt loved this. A few things I'd love for you to direct people to. A, where can they find you? B, how can they get access to your weekly emails? And then I don't know if you want to touch on Secret Leaders as another resource for people as well.
Yeah, sure. So, starting point, the website is yourheights.com because we can't afford heights.com yet, but we will. So yourheights.com, as in reach your heights. Instagram, Twitter, Your Heights too. We share all scientific information on how to take care of your brain. You can find me at Dan Murray-Serter on all platforms. And then, look, podcast-wise, I've got 2 podcasts. Like, Braincare is all with scientific and academic experts on how to look after your brain. It's a lot more fun than it sounds like. And we try and make it fun and engaging. Every episode is just 15 minutes. And we talk about all things from psychedelics and mental health to ketamine therapy to dealing with trauma to managing anxiety. There's a whole very interesting array of content. And then Secret Leaders is my podcast I've been doing for 4 years now. So it's the #1 business podcast in the UK. And I'm very lucky. We've got so many remarkable guests on there. Just done over 100 episodes over the last 4 years, from founders of Slack and Deliveroo and Uber and ClassPass and Calm and Shazam, and just like so many. I obviously, I'm biased, but I highly recommend that. Or might want to get stuck into episodes of people like James Clear or Jim Collins, and even John Cleese talking about creativity in the workplace randomly. So those would be my recommended touch points. So I really appreciate you having me on the show, man.
No, I've really enjoyed it. And I no doubt we'll have you back at some point in the not too distant future, and we can carry on the conversation. So yeah, for everyone that's been listening, make sure you go and check out Dan, connect with him on socials. I highly recommend you go and get yourself some heights. No doubt your appetite has been you've become curious to the product, and I personally think it's fantastic. So thank you so much, Dan, for coming and joining me today. Everybody else will put all of the links in the show notes. So the discount codes, where to check out Dan's podcast, the link to get on his Sunday emails. We'll put that in the show notes as well. So Dan, yeah, thanks again. It's been great.
Wicked, man. Thank you.
And for everyone who's been listening, until next time, make it happen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast. Make sure you join Will's free Facebook group, the Make It Happen community. Please support the show by subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Share this episode with at least one friend you think would benefit from it, and give Will a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, make it happen.